Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to your weekly dose of newsy infotainment. It is Let's Be Treasonable, coming to you from the luxurious studios of Radio Titans in Los Angeles with your cognitive dissidents on the panel this week. Comedian, world traveler, and economist, Cat Alvarado.
Hello.
Hey, great to have you back. Thank you very much.
Here.
Yay. And as always, we are joined by comedian, scholar, and the black voice of reason, Mr. Tymon Shipp.
Power to the people. Good to be here.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
It's and it's not just a Black History Month thing.
Yeah.
This guy's here all the time. I am Dr. David Robinson, your Vin Scully for the impending apocalypse, and as always, we are fortunate to be joined by the invisible member of the panel, joining us via the magic of pre-recorded sound and telephony. It is Will Durst with this week's Burst of Durst.
Hey guys, Will Durst here with a few choice words about cherry picking. That's what Republicans have done the last couple of weeks by releasing secret FBI testimony, but only the bits and pieces that support their version of the narrative. To prove that two can play at that game, we're going to do some cherry picking of our own. Here's what happens when the words from Donald Trump's State of the Union address get rearranged. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, the First Lady of the United States, my fellow North Koreans, criminals and terrorists, and pregnant homeless women. Less than 1 year has passed since I first stood at this podium, in this chamber of pain and sorrow. And since then, this nation has been a powerful witness to the dangerous menace that threatens our world, my administration. No regime has oppressed its own citizens more totally or brutally than the cruel dictatorship that is the United States Senate. One of my greatest priorities is to place bombs in civilian hospitals and to ensure floods and fires and storms, devastating hurricanes, and a hail of gunfire. I'm asking Congress to assist American car companies to continue building and expanding plants in Cuba and Venezuela. So tonight, I extend an open hand to work with members of especially cruel gangs of illegal immigrants so that America's forgotten middle class can be eliminated through opioid and drug addiction. Hopefully our families will be tortured by our Afghan partners. Weakness is the surest path to the pains of hardship. I have caused the loss of many innocent lives, am a total disgrace, and must get treatment. Thank you, and God bless Russia. Hey, those are his words. It's just the order got changed around a bit. For Let's Be Treasonable, I'm Will Durst.
Thank you so much, Will. A true national treasure. Well, that is going to take us right into our first topic, which is the Democratic Memo, which has not been released as of yet, and we can wonder if it ever will be under this administration. But I think the interesting thing is that because Trump, even walking out of the State of the Union address, they, overheard him talking to one of the congressmen who asked if the Republican memo was going to be released, and he was caught on mic saying 100%.
Right.
And then went out and just boldly lied about the memo, saying, this vindicates me. This proves there's no collusion. It does nothing of the sort. I could say the same thing about a pastrami sandwich, vindicating me for my traffic infractions several years back.
Well,
doesn't make it true.
The Democrats will not let out their memo because it lets out too much information. Secretive information that they have that, as far as...
But here's the thing. I mean, the Democrats ran their memo by, the top folks at the intelligence agencies.
And you can't do it.
Before submitting it to the president.
Right.
And, well, it got clearance. But, But
they didn't put it out because of what is in it. They said you would have to...
Well, right. Trump is saying that they need to do certain revisions. And I believe the revisions he's looking for is everywhere it says Donald Trump, they're supposed to scratch that out and write in Crooked Hillary. But, you think about it, it's like this because the House Intelligence Committee has become so infected with partisan politics, and you have a Republican memo and then a Democratic memo. And now the Democratic memo is going to the rats who put out the Republican memo for revision.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
this is a group. This is a committee that is supposed to be beyond politics.
Well, you can't go beyond politics, because everything is political that they're doing. Everything is to draw folks in, create. When they talk about collusion or whatever, they're trying to create collusion in everything that they do. I mean, they don't want you to know exactly what went down, but they will say, yeah, Russia was involved. Yeah, Russia did this. Russia did that. Okay, but what's the other part? Because you're waiting for the shoe to drop on something.
If you look at Fox News and Breitbart, they're trying to push a narrative that Russia helped Hillary Clinton to get this dirt on Donald Trump out there. And it's. I mean,
wait a minute, but then you have a son who went to the Russians,
right?
Because he found out there was dirt on Hillary,
and it was completely self-admitted too.
Right.
It's not even something debatable. Like, he said that he did it,
right? But he didn't even go to the FBI and say, "Hey, man, someone just sent me something on information on Hillary. Should I speak to these people?" You should have went to the FBI.
Christopher Steele, who was working on getting information on the dossier, to go to the FBI and say, "Hey, I think you guys should be taking a look at this. This is some fucked up shit." The fact that an ex-British spy is more patriotic than the president and his family, should be disturbing. But nothing is disturbing anymore. It's just a lot of face palming and head shaking.
Right.
And wondering, how loud do we have to scream? How many marches do there have to be? How many wife beaters need to be drummed out of the administration before the Republicans in Congress finally admit, well, maybe the emperor isn't as finely dressed as we admitted.
But his base loves him, man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They back him 100%. I mean, the fact that they're sitting there embracing that a guy, I hope he's doing well. He got into a lot of trouble for that, the wife beating thing, but I hope he's doing well. That's how his people, his base thinks too. Well, maybe she deserved it. Maybe she, maybe
it's a whole culture, and it doesn't matter what.
She should have been
out.
in the kitchen. She shouldn't have been. Who told her to wear shoes? She should be barefooted.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what comes out from the top. It doesn't matter if we do have a Democratic memo that gets passed. Even if the Democratic memo that gets passed says exactly what we hope that it says, which counters the Nunes memo perfectly and keeps the Mueller whole thing right on track. Like, it won't matter, because Fox News and Alex Jones, Rush Limbaugh, and the whole cabal of conservative media, they're just going to keep saying what they're going to say. It literally doesn't matter what the facts are. They're going to shift the focus and keep the focus on the narrative they want.
Right. That's why they reject education. That's why they reject, they don't want you to get, I mean, they call you an elitist if you read. They call you an elitist if you're trying to improve upon, different things. But if that was the case, then why is education so expensive? If you don't want, so on one hand, you don't want me to know anything, but if I do go out and get it, now you're saying, you are thinking that you're better than we are because you are, because of education, when we should be pushing for that.
Well, they'd like to argue that education as we know it is just us being indoctrinated into liberal ideologies.
Right.
I remember being in college when I was studying economics at Cal State Northridge, which the department is a little bit on the libertarian-leaning side. One of the professors pointed out that some absurd number of professors at UCs is liberal. They are liberal, something like 90 or above. Right. And he used that statistic to then say, universities are biased in the liberal direction, and there is, something against Republicans and conservatives at the highest levels of education. Like, you could say that, or you could say that maybe they're wrong. Right. Maybe the professors and whatnot are looking at facts and saying, global warming is real and social justice is important and should be paid attention to and fought for. So they're deciding to be Democrats.
Well, I think that the bigger issue is that, and this is one of those things, they're obviously not learning it in the schools because apparently they're not allowed. So it needs to be taught at home. But kids, and really even a lot of adults, if it's not too late, need to be taught critical thinking skills.
100%.
So that you can, you can go.
You're going to get in trouble, Dave.
I know. I'm crazy, but it's the same thing that, doesn't justify college students getting all into objectivism just because they read half of the Fountainhead and then they just become assholes for a couple semesters. Right. It's like that's a phase, you grow out of it. That's part of the experience.
I can speak for that. That happened to me. It was Atlas Shrugged, but yes.
But as one of my friends from college, Jason Pettis, who is running an art collective and publishing company in Chicago. We had a sketch and improv group for a while, and his joke was, "How many objectivists does it take to change a light bulb?"
How many?
One. But you needed the scorn in there. But yeah, it was just, but it's, these are phases that you go through, and it's learning critical thinking that allows you to look back on those days and go, wow, I was really kind of a dick about that, wasn't I?
Well, now it's
and once you get that perspective, right, that is going to help take care of a lot of the other problems that we have. The whole Me Too thing that's going on. Not saying that sexual assault is going to be wiped out, because admittedly humans are horrible. So
right,
there are some who cannot overcome base nature, and they're everything from quote unquote alpha males to the folks who are filling up our white collar prisons and
right,
the regular prisons.
Right.
But if you could go, critical thinking could take men who are currently in some sort of situation towards having the perspective to go, wow. Yeah, I guess
that would be nice, but
I was a horrible person.
But in order to have that critical thinking, in order to go in that direction, to take one step in that direction, you have to admit that you have a problem first. And I think a lot of these people have such big egos, they'll never have the humility to reflect back on what they think and what they have been saying and espousing for years and say, maybe I was wrong.
When we look at it, life is perspective. It is how you choose to look at it. A lot of stuff is choice. A lot of people do not choose to change the way they look at life. I mean, usually when you think of critical thinking would be to say, if I lose my job, what's my best perspective on how to deal with the situation I'm going through? Or if I got student loans to pay, how the best way to pay them? How do you use critical thinking to help you move forward in living your life? And a lot of people don't even take into the fact of what, how to use critical thinking, or say, I even had someone ask me, what is that? What is critical thinking? What do you do with that? And I'm serious.
The joke answer would be, well, figure it out.
Right. And it's sitting there.
It's very zen.
Yes. And there's another thing, to try and find a better way of doing things. You can't continue to use racism as your, say, to stop you from achieving. You can't. Yes, it exists, but we know that as ignorance. We still must move forward, because there are other things. You could have a health issue. I mean, the guy who's blind isn't telling you he can't go to school. Why? Just put it in Braille, bro. I can make it happen. Oh, you don't have any arms? No, but I do have feet. And there are people who are driving with their feet and writing with it. It's, what do you choose? How do you critically find a way to move forward in what you're doing and find a better way to live your life?
Well, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head here, because if you think about it, basically what you're saying is that people who are facing hardships need to overcome. They need to adapt. They need to, and here's the key word here, kids, evolve. Right. So if you're talking about a bunch of people who, by and large, do not believe in evolution, how can you, there's always the common thing of, you have to stop telling Trump